Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This is going to be a video covering my impressions of the Thieaudio Origin for competitive gaming purposes, but I also do want to discuss their overall sound. You guys can check the frequency response here, a set that is somewhat close in its overall tuning to the Mangird Tea Pro that we recently reviewed. And I think that for competitive gaming on the wallhack certification tier list, the Thieaudio Origin is going to fall into that same bracket. It's going to fall right next to the Mangird Tea Pro at an A. The Thieaudio Origin as well as the Mangird Tea Pro, really two sets that transition very well into a multitude of titles and performing at around that level in each title. So going from Warzone to Apex to Val to CS2, a really good transition into all titles. It's a tuning that really works well when done correctly. Now, the Thieaudio Origin, I think what you are getting when you're going up into this different price category, the Origin is, I think, a set that just performs so beautifully with very exceptionally well-performing drivers in the entirety of the frequency range. You've got one dynamic driver, two ESTs, four BAs, and one bone conduction driver. And I think this set, when you listen to it, and especially if you're listening to rap-heavy tracks like I do, this is a set when you sit down, you hear this sub and mid-bass response, you feel as though the impact, the technicality is transcended so much past the Mangird Tea Pro. It just turns into a different level, a different experience, and one that you would expect crossing into that higher priced threshold. Some sets, man, you can sit down and listen to some $1,500 sets and $2,000 sets that just don't sound better than some $350 sets. This is not the case. The Origin really sounding absolutely fantastic at its price point of $850, sounding better than some, again, $2,000 sets that I've listened to. Probably the best low end that I've heard on an IEM to date since beginning my IEM testing. Just to really get into like the technicalities here, the sound stage on this set sounds wide, but it also sounds deep. And when you get that sub bass attack, you feel as though there's more sub and mid bass substance, more of it. The way the low end really interacts, it's more of like listening to an open back headphone. It doesn't flood you. You get this sense of air between that low end that is just absolutely exceptional, especially when the bass goes this strong, this deep. You get this reverbed rumble where you feel that sub, you feel that mid bass, and the technicality is just so absolutely beautiful. The resolution on this set is really at a level where you will instantaneously notice it again over that 300-ish range for IEM. Again, it's going to fall into that same competitive category, so you're not getting a boost there, but the overall sound experience is just absolutely fantastic. Now, when we talk about that quantity and quality of that drive in the low end and how good that sound spacing is in the air in that low range, it does not flood the mids at all. And although this isn't a vocal forward set, the vocals in terms of male vocals, female vocals, maybe getting a little tinge of extra husk from the low end, feel absolutely right there. There really isn't an issue at all in really being able to parse out everything that's going on in a track. The mids are very textured and detailed. And again, vocals, like you hear just a lot of micro detail within whatever singer you're listening to. I mean, listen, I listen to a lot of rap, Red Hot Chili Peppers, Sublime, and for my sort of tracks, I'm hearing more detail through vocals. I'm hearing more detail in the upper mids. I'm hearing more detail in the treble than most sets in my arsenal right now in that $350 to $500 range. I think the upper region is very detailed, and the air that you hear off of cymbal strikes, this sense of separation, this sense of technicality, it is at a level that you would want for this particular type of set when you're buying into a price at $850. It's technical, it sounds superb, the staging is very nice, and again, that low end giving you that rumble, that attack, that volume, everything combined, it's just a beautiful set. Now, for gaming, I think for Valorant, this is a set that is hard to critique and criticize. It gets an A in Valorant, hands down. It's a type of tuning you get into Val, and you get this airiness with this sense of this action-packed, fun-sounding set that has a little bit of warmth within the space to draw you in. The soundstage doesn't feel too far. It doesn't feel on top of you. It's got that nice staging that we want for a tac shooter. When people are moving towards you and getting across this threshold, you feel them. You feel that sensation of them getting closer with that depth perception. And when somebody is moving at you, let's say from your left and from your right, it's got this great sense of urgency and prioritization that you know as two things are moving at you at the same time, you get a sense in your mind of how close each of those things is coming to you at the same time to prioritize, which is very important, in my opinion, for tac shooters. If there was one area to critique, it would be when every so often, let's say I'm looking at my 8 o'clock and there's somebody, let's say, at like my 3 o'clock, and my focus is here, my screen is turned to my left. If somebody starts shooting a Vandal or an Operator and I turn, every so often I would find myself either over-aiming my crosshair placement with my flick or under-aiming based on the audio cue. And because of a little bit of that reverb, that quantity and volume to the low end, every once in a while I would find that it wouldn't be like pinpoint pristine to where I needed to go and rotate. So that was something that occurred just every so often, but not with any sense of frequency that I think it would be downgraded. The most important thing, again, is with everything going on, if I had like two teammates behind me shooting and what I needed to hear in front of me, some of the lighter taps, some of the movement and shooting from the enemy team, I was able to parse out everything with very good depth perception and imaging. That separation, again, and layering in the low end just being very good on the Thieaudio Origin. So it gets an A for Valorant. Moving into Call of Duty Warzone and Apex Legends, I think in Apex Legends, the verticality, the depth perception, the overall imaging, again, the sense of really getting like in the space because it feels more action-packed. It feels more kind of warm and not intimate because the soundstage still is wide and expansive, but feeling like you're more in the space because of this sense of holographic imaging, etc. It just feels as though a lot of like the lighter taps, the lighter slides, when somebody's in a building, you're outside of the building, you're fighting a team, and a team is running in the building, and those lighter taps, some of those things are just not protruding through to this sense of this precise hit that I would want. Some of those things I just wish shined through the mix a little bit more. But in third parties and fourth parties, with a lot of shooting, a lot of explosions, a lot of things going on, I just didn't find as though that low end was too occlusive. The separation, the layering, again, just so technically superior that it's just such a fun set that still performs exceptionally well. Again, the one critique being I wish some of the slides, some of the climbs, some of the lighter things in the space came through a little bit more so that I could keep track of them a little bit better in those third-party, fourth-party scenarios, or just in general, being able to push closer to a building and being able to hear those lighter taps a little bit more elevated to have an idea with a faster timing of exactly where people were like in a building at most times. I still think that the Thieaudio Origin for Apex Legends gets, because of its, again, great layering, separation, etc., gets around in A-, a very solid performer and a very technical, a very great sounding fun set. With the tuning, again, You can tip roll and get little modifications as well between foam tips and silicone tips, as listed in ear fits, spin fits, etc. I did find moving to foam tips, you can cut that low end a little bit and make them sound a little bit brighter if that's what you want to do, if you find yourself getting a little bit too deer in the headlights. Now moving to Call of Duty, and that region being about like an A- to B+ for Apex. Moving to Call of Duty Warzone, same effect with the tip rolling. You can go from foam to the silicone and go from a little bit brighter, a little bit reduction in that low end to really having that impactful volume and substance to the low end with the other tips. And both ways worked quite well. I preferred foam tips for Warzone, but moving to the silicone, again, just this action-packed, you feel like you're in the game because of how great things sound. And the substance and hits on the low end being quite palpable in Call of Duty Warzone because of some of the thockier things and kicking through doors, etc. That just sound absolutely fantastic. Depth perception, imaging sounded absolutely phenomenal. And again, separation being very good. So even with airstrikes, mortar strikes, etc., if I'm cracked, I just didn't really find myself having issues with separation and layering in those moments, in those instances. So that's what we want from a set that's this expensive. That's what we want from a set that's going to get this ranking on the wallhack certified tier list. So a great performer in COD Warzone, a great performer in Apex, great performer in Valorant. It's, again, a type of tuning that when done right, and this is done very right with these the performance out of these drivers and in this configuration, I think the best from Thieaudio I've tried to date. Just a really, really beautiful IEM, again, with some of the best low end I've heard to date on an IEM. Now, the Thieaudio Origin, you guys can see this faceplate, absolutely beautiful. It's kind of like this galactic, starry theme. I think it's just absolutely beautiful. The volume to the chassis is a little bit bigger than most that we've tried to date, so it's bigger than the Yanyan Cannon, the Mangird Tea Pro, bigger than the Arete, and a lot of IEMs from Ziigaat, bigger than the Thieaudio Hype 4. But overall, I didn't have any discomfort. I didn't have any comfort issues at all until around like the 6-hour mark. But it wasn't something that I found to deter me from using them past the 6-hour mark. The nozzle is on the wider side, but it's not very long. And it does have that lip there to catch onto the ear tips quite well. 2-pin cable, that is absolutely beautiful. And it does have an interchangeable termination, and you guys can see some of the more technical specifics regarding the cable on the purchasing page. But absolutely beautiful performance out of the Thieaudio Origin. I think, obviously, again, if you're at this price point, you're probably an enthusiast or somebody who's got the budget and looking to elevate your sound experience. I don't think that these will disappoint. That's going to be it for this one, guys. I hope it helped. If it did, please leave a sub to the channel. See you guys in the next review. Peace.